This video is going to be a focus on one of the more underrated free agents that'll be out there for NFL teams to sign when the free agency period begins 4 p.m. March 11th. We're in the middle of combine season, draft season, if you will, and certainly all spend a lot of time watching college film, especially with the combine results being posted on Twitter and all kinds of social media. In the middle of all that, I still try to keep up with some of the free agents that are out there, particularly for the Ravens and or Lions to potentially sign. And I can't help but marvel at some of the film that I found and kind of second guess myself for not realizing how good this particular player is. Fifth-year free agent whose cap hit was only $2.6 million last year. And if you ask me, he's one of the more versatile players in the league. Now, before I reveal who that is, I tend to use the word versatile or multiple quite often as it relates to defensive players. The ability to execute multiple tasks or techniques at a high level is difficult to do. Oftentimes you find players in the NFL or any professional sport that are really good at one thing, maybe have a couple of other complementary skills. When I sat down and watched probably 6 or 8 plays of Andrew Van Ginkel from the Miami Dolphins, and I realized all the things that he's capable of doing, I can't help but wonder what the market's going to look like for him. And I don't mean a $10 million, $12 million a year salary, but the film that you're going to see here is going to show you a guy who's a extremely capable and dangerous edge rusher. He had 6 sacks in 2023, 19 quarterback hits. I think he had 20 quarterback hits in 2021, which is the first time I ever saw him play. Ravens go down to Miami for a Thursday night football game, which at this point is quite well known for Ravens fans, unfortunately. And Andrew Van Ginkel was a guy who was a big part of the game plan. He also can step back and play inside linebacker, so some people call him a Sam linebacker. His ability to take on blocks, shed blocks, make tackles against the run will be illustrated in this video. Hopefully I can do my job to show you how the quality of play that he gives you as an inside linebacker, not just against the run, but also in coverage, particularly to the boundary against tight ends. One thing that I want to mention before we get to the film with him is he's a guy who shows up on film in places you wouldn't expect him to. You'll see his alignment pre-snap generally to the left-hand side of the field. Oftentimes he'll show up on the far side of the field outside the numbers or right at the top of the numbers as the first guy to make contact with the ball carrier or the quarterback. He's an interesting player, if you ask me, someone I think both of the teams I cover should look at, particularly because of the lower salary that I think he's going to command versus some of the other edge rushers that are out there in free agency. Brian Burns, even Danico Autry, who's a guy that I think extremely highly of. We all tend to focus on sacks and quarterback pressures for edge defenders, as well we certainly should. And in the case of Van Ginkel, he can give you that. Like I said, 6 sacks in 2023. Now, he did spend a significant amount of time dropping in coverage. I read 2 different articles that had different percentages. One indicated that he was dropping into coverage on 31% of the snaps that he's on the field. You're more than welcome to go back and look up his snap count for the entire year. I'm showing you enough film here today that illustrates his versatility. My point is 6 sacks, I think, should be interpreted in lieu of the fact that he's so good in coverage, he's often asked to drop out, perhaps more than most of the edge defenders that'll be out there on the free agent market or on any NFL roster for that matter. Week 16 against Dallas, played a whale of a game, if you ask me, particularly against the run. The Dolphins ran a lot of these stunts, D tackles, D ends, or switching their rush lanes, and the awareness of Van Ginkel, the physicality, and the range that he has. I don't think that any of us would, myself personally, wouldn't have thought about range for someone like him. I had seen him play before, like I said, 2021, and then the Ravens played the Dolphins again in 2022 and 2023. Check out where he is on this pass rush here, and then where he ends up making the tackle. He lined up on the left. Again, it's a stunt. I think his awareness in the middle of the play tells you a little bit about him. There's a stunt with both defensive ends and defensive tackles. This one on the left side is slightly different, but as he folds back underneath, he's got awareness of the running back slipping out. He tries to get into the passing lane first, recognizes that Dak Prescott's going to escape the pocket to the left, ends up getting one of his 6 sacks. I think it's a beautiful illustration of what the guy's capable of doing in terms of his range, his awareness during the middle of the play to take away a potential outlet, in this case, the pass to the running back, where Dak Prescott does pump fake. Certainly there's another inside linebacker who's there in coverage relationship, so he could play a role in the play as well. But this is a player who and this is rare for me, the more film I watch of him, the more I like. Do I have any idea what his salary structure would look like? No. I know Drew Rosenhaus is his agent, so they're going to try to get as much money as possible. You can't blame the guy. I think in 5 years in the NFL, I think his total earnings is less than $8 million. And for a guy who had 19 quarterback hits, I think 9 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, and the coverage skills I'm going to show you here in a moment, I think speak for themselves. Certainly he's going to go after the biggest contract that he can. Another stunt, this time I think is Chubb is going to pick the guard such that Sealer can wrap and loop around. And then in this case, we're talking about Van Ginkel. He's coming from the other side, going to try to get in the window of Prescott delivering the pass on this 3rd and 9. Again, they played this game a lot in Week 16. These stunts, these rush switches between the defensive ends, outside linebackers, and defensive tackles. Van Ginkel, when you talk about versatility, I think he's as versatile as it comes as an outside linebacker / inside linebacker. In fact, I would just say he's a football player. Huge hit on a 3rd and 10 back in Week 2 against the Patriots, a game that they won by less than 1 touchdown. This is a violent football player who's capable of a lot. If you can bring a guy like this into your building on a low salary structure, on a low cap hit, again, last year it was $2.6 million was his cap hit. I think it's going to probably double this season. Last play for this illustration, we all tend to focus on splash plays regardless of position on defense, and he gives you some of that. This is a pick 6 against Washington in Week 13, supposed to be a screen down here to the 3 receiver side. Incredibly aware football player, if you ask me, capable of a lot. You may be like I was about 3 days ago and unsure of how good of a football player he is. The film, if you ask me, the more you watch it, it just grows on you, and he looks like a guy who's a part of a winning structure on defense, if you ask me. The same guy that I just showed you film of rushing the passer, getting to the quarterback all across 2023 and getting a pick 6 against Washington is now playing inside linebacker against the Raiders in Week 11. This is a 3rd and 6. The awareness, the recognition, and understanding of route concepts. Again, it's a 3rd and 6. You may have some kind of pattern or tendency for the Raiders to run mesh in this situation. Aiden O'Connell is back there at quarterback. First of all, you got Van Ginkel is faking the rush and then dropping out of here. And he will let the tight end go underneath, cross his face. He immediately recognizes that it's mesh, and now he's going to take the backside drag. It's a man-free concept. He's the free inside linebacker, if you will, in between the hashes, the low hole dropper. And so he can play whatever route he wants or whatever the game plan dictates on a mesh concept. It's not just the ability to recognize it, read it. It's the speed at which he does so, if you ask me, that seems to stick out. I think it puts him in position to make plays that maybe other players don't because he's there a half a step or even a full step before they are. You can see he's faking a blitz to draw the attention of the left guard and then drops out of here, opens his face mask to look to the outside, sees the under or the drag. Luckily, Aiden O'Connell didn't throw it. Luckily for the Raiders, he didn't throw it out in front of the receiver such that he could run onto the football, because if he does, then Van Ginkel's probably got his 2nd pick 6 of the year, if you ask me. Same game. This is a forced fumble. It's actually ruled incomplete upon review. He's switching sides and ends up covering the tight end. Now, look, this is a 3rd and 16. So him giving up a short completion is not a problem because they're going to force a punt in any case. The video on NFL Plus stops recording because it was ruled an incompletion. So on NFL Plus, they're not going to show the entirety of the return. Nonetheless, in real actual gameplay, this ball is returned for a touchdown. Again, ruled incomplete. Van Ginkel's a guy that does everything well. not just in terms of playing the run, playing the pass, but the individual techniques while doing so. And here, he's got super awareness. It's 3rd and 16. He's making a tackle such that it's going to force a punt. So he understands I can go ahead and try and force a fumble here, as opposed to it being maybe a 3rd and 2 where your tackle determines whether or not they're going to punt or have a new series of downs. Moving on to inside linebacker play against the run, it's the same as him at outside linebacker, which I'll show you in a moment. I would say there's times where he appears to be in a less efficient stance as an inside linebacker, probably because he spends so much practice time at outside linebacker on the line of scrimmage. That would be my only, I can't even say complaint. It would be the only observation about him right now that I can make that's not positive, that's not glowing. Week 3, another run play. This shows you his range again, which I think I illustrated in that sack against Dak Prescott earlier. A draw play to Jamal Williams. And it's the ability to get out to sides of the field where you wouldn't expect him to be able to have an impact. Now, he did line up on the offense's right, the defense's left, but you can see as the ball snapped, he's focused on the tight end. Again, it's a 3rd down, 3rd and long, in fact. My apologies, it's 2nd and 14. Plays through contact and has not just a high motor for the NFL. I think it even sticks out among NFL players. Whoever he signs with, if you get this level of play, if you get this level of pursuit, I think they're going to get more than their money's worth. Two plays from Van Ginkel's 10-tackle, 1.5 sack performance against the Cowboys in Week 16 that I think illustrate his versatility. At this point, I need a more powerful word than versatile, because I think he takes it to the next level. He's apexed out here versus 12 personnel, 1 tight end to the Cowboys' left, another tight end to the right. You got absolutely zero effort from the wide receiver trying to deal with Van Ginkel at all. He ends up making the tackle with his inside shoulder. He's the force player. He's the guy who can't let the ball get to his outside shoulder. So even when he's making a tackle, he's doing all the little things right, if you ask me. This time, 11 personnel for the Cowboys. And this is the last play I want to show because I think it illustrates his strength, his core strength. He certainly has gotten bulkier since the first time I saw him play again against the Ravens on Thursday Night Football in 2021. He stands up the right tackle here such that there is no vertical movement at all. Ends up being, I think, a 2 or 3 yard run for Pollard. Once he bases up and gets his arms out on people, this is what you get out of Andrew Van Ginkel. Maybe you already knew more about him than I did in terms of his performance. I don't know that his talent level matches Brian Burns or some of the other guys that'll be out there in the free agent class. I think he's going to go down as probably a later signing for teams that have a higher goal, a higher target for their edge defender. They're looking for a 10, 12 sack per season guy, perhaps. And the draft will obviously impact things as well. This is an extremely underrated football player. An extremely underrated football player in my mind. No longer is. Is it possible that there's 3 or 4 Andrew Van Ginkels on every team in the NFL? Absolutely. It is. But this is a position, linebacker, that I have more experience coaching and understanding some of the techniques with. And if you ask me, if your NFL team is serious about trying to find a player who's multiple, can play inside and outside linebacker, and play well against the run and the pass from both of those alignments, then this is a player that they look at. And it's probably not a popular opinion because he's certainly not a big name or someone that anyone, including myself, would have looked at as a high profile. We have to get that guy free agent. I think the team that signs him is one that's serious about winning and trying to put together a defense that's multiple and has guys that just refuse to not get to the football on every play. You guys, let me know if you enjoyed the film study. I'd like to do at least a couple of more of these about free agents leading up to March 11th, which is going to be a fun period along with the Combine. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Ravens fans or Lions fans would enjoy this film study video, of a guy that I think both of those franchises should be interested in, then please consider sharing a link to this video out on social media to help this content get more reach.